Well, welcome everyone. If you're joining us live or watching the recording, we're so glad that you came to learn about this wonderful cruise to Bordeaux. Give you a little bit of our agenda tonight. We're going to introduce you first to our agency. We'll introduce you to Avalon Waterways, and then we're going to talk about the Bordeaux River Cruise experience on Avalon Artistry II. And then we're going to talk a little bit about why Avalon is the best river cruise experience. We're going to share with you our promotional pricing and then have a chance for questions and answers. So we'll just go through this part pretty quickly, but the thing I want to emphasize in this presentation is that the reason we are promoting this Avalon Waterways cruise is that we have had such good experiences in the past cruising with them. We've taken, I believe, 5 or 6 Avalon Waterways cruises now. They're a fantastic cruise company, and we are explorers at heart. We love sharing those experiences and curating incredible experiences for our client, and we know that this Avalon to Bordeaux is going to be one of them. Again, we are avid travelers ourselves, and we're just so lucky because we are able to experience the world and still run our business no matter where we are. We consider that travel time an investment in our clients because we use that firsthand knowledge that we get from doing the travel ourselves to curate extraordinary experiences, then again, for our client. I am a certified Avalon Waterways specialist, and I also have my Globus Cosmos, which is their land tour, coach tour sister brand. And now I'm going to introduce Debbie. And I always say quality partners equals a quality experience. Debbie is my right-hand woman at Avalon Waterways and Globus Brands, and she's going to share with us some of the unique things that distinguish Avalon from some of the other river cruise lines.
Thank you, Suzanne and Steve. Hi, everyone. It's so good to see you and to have some people joining us live here today. As Suzanne said, my name's Debbie. I am Suzanne's right-hand woman. I work for Avalon Waterways, and I'm so proud to represent this incredible river cruise company. But some of the things that, and some of the challenges I think Suzanne and Steve have kind of brought up to me over the years is that, not very many people know about Avalon, right? Until you meet Steve and Suzanne, then you're all the way through with Avalon because they are not just some of our biggest advocates, and Suzanne's not just trained up on Avalon and everything Avalon. She's also one of our top travel advisors and travel agencies that supports the Avalon Waterways company as well. So we thank you for that, Suzanne, as always. I'm very thankful for you. But some things that I wanted to sort of get into. You see some of our accolades here. We have been winning USA Today's Best Reader's Choice Awards since 2022. We still hold the title for Best River Cruise Ships in Europe and Best River Cruise Cabins. You can sort of see a preview of that in Steve's, where Steve is right now. He's in one of our panorama suites, which we'll talk about, in a second here. And when it comes to river cruising, I think the ultimate authority when it comes to the idea of cruising is Cruise Critic. And if you look us up there, we're actually the highest rated river cruise line on there. We're still holding that position. We've been holding that position for a few years now, and I love the Cruise Critic and USA Today's Reader's Choice Awards because it's actually our clients like yourselves and people like Suzanne and Steve, who are advisors and agency partners who have actually sailed with us, who are giving us those ratings, right? So, and we'll go into some of the things that also make us a little bit different other than our river cruise ships, right? So let's talk about our inclusions. So when it comes to Avalon, you're going to get more inclusions with us. The price point's probably going to be a little bit higher than maybe what you're expecting, but don't worry about that. It's always because we have so many things that you don't even have to think about paying for once you get on the ship, right? So first things first, I always love talking about food. 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They're hot meals. There is a choice of buffet breakfast and lunch, right? And then there's also a la carte menus that you can order from. And then snacks 24/7 in the back of the ship. There's a place called the Club Lounge. That's one of my favorite places because we'll stock it up with fresh fruit, with nuts, and some of the best sugar coated donuts I've ever had live on our Avalon ships. So hopefully you'll have a chance to go try that when you guys are all sailing in with Suzanne and Steve in Bordeaux. And now speaking about food, we can't talk about food and not talk about libations and the drinks that you'll be enjoying as well. So what makes Avalon different is not only are you going to get beer and wine during those meal hours, usually more during lunch and dinner. If you need a little pick me up in the mornings during breakfast, you can get some of that sparkling wine. But we have a huge focus on the destination. We want to immerse you into the destination, not just how do I take you there, right? How do I take the fishers there by putting them on one of my ships in Europe, right? But what does this destination smell like? What does it taste like? What does it feel like? And a lot of that taste comes from the local wineries that we partner with. So when you're sailing on Avalon, the wines that you're getting served during lunch and dinner that are included, by the way, and it's and Suzanne, you can speak to this. It's like bottomless wine during that time, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I have to tell you, we got so spoiled when we were in the Douro because they were bringing us the local Portuguese wines, and there was a group of girls, the ladies at our table. We were the Vino Verde girls because it's the green wine, and he had to go dig it out of like someplace, and because he knew we wanted it every night.
Oh
He
my
really had to
gosh.
put up with us. So.
I love it. That means you guys had a lot of fun, and our crew loved you so much that you guys got stamped Vino wine girls, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, Vino Verde girls.
but so all of that's already included, and the beer as well, right? The beer is also going to be local beer, probably brands and breweries that you've never heard of before, and you get to taste that and experience that all included when it comes to Avalon. And then probably one of my second favorite things about what's included with us is that you have a choice of excursions. So yes, the tours with Avalon are going to be included. We're going to have some optional tours that you can pay a little extra for. Those are going to be very few and far between that you're going to get. Maybe 3 options in total during your entire 7-night cruise with us. Other than that, you are pretty much guaranteed and can be confident that you'll get 3 excursions each day that are already included for you to choose from. And what's great about Avalon is that we're not just giving you the run of the mill, very cookie cutter type of excursions, right? We're going to give you something that really piques your personal interest. So maybe it's being a little bit more active, hiking, biking, kayaking. We also have e-bikes, right, that we can use if that tickles your fancy as well. But mine is more so of the discovery excursion. So these are going to be, we're talking about wine and beer, wine tasting, beer tastings, visiting a local farmer's home and having lunch with them and their family and getting to learn more about them. Maybe doing a painting class, like a Van Gogh painting class, right? Those are the types of excursions that are already included as a choice when you're using Avalon Waterways. And then we also have a daily happy hour that happens each night prior to dinner. We also have the largest standard accommodations in the industry. So again, we're looking at that beautiful panorama suite that Steve is staying in right now, 200 square foot rooms that we're going to talk about a little bit later, that allows us to have the smallest passenger average capacity on our ship. So about 150 passengers, whereas our competitors who are sailing the same exact rivers on the same exact length and width ships are housing about almost 200 passengers, right? And then you have things like your daily housekeeping. So, I know during COVID, that is something that when you're at hotels now, they make you, put a little note on your door that you want housekeeping, or text us that you want to get your room made up, right? That's something that you don't have to think about when you're on River Cruise with Avalon. It's 3 days or 3 times pretty much a day that your room gets fixed up in the morning when you wake up and you're off to breakfast, right during lunch hour, and then right before dinner we have the turn down service as well. And then we also have a tour or a cruise manager. So this is your go-to person while we're on the ship. They're going to answer all of your questions. There's also meetings every night that's called our cruise director meetings, where your cruise director is going to tell you exactly maybe what happened that day and what to expect the next day. So very different from ocean cruising, which I know some of you know Suzanne and Steve for very, very well. And then you have your local expert guides in each port that are the ones assisting you during those choice tours as well. And we believe that that's for us to have quality tour directors and tour guides who are meeting with you, taking you in very small groups, right? Probably an average of about 10 to 15 per group, so that you get that personal experience with that person who's a local, who speaks the local language as well and is an expert at this destination and can answer almost any question that you have about what the politics are, right? Speaking of politics because of the election, but politics, things of just day-to-day lives. How do you get to work? Where do your kids go to school, right? Those types of things, getting you guys connected to the people that really make the destination what it is. And there's so much more even, but I love this. Suzanne, you did an amazing job at putting this together, but I think that Graham McTavish here can help us kind of
Yes.
wrap things up and sum it up, right?
Yeah, so he's their official spokesperson, and he's known for his roles in Outlander and The Hobbit and House of Dragons. So
There may be
here he
comfort
is.
in the usual, but true discovery and remarkable experiences are the rewards for the curious. They are the gifts that reside beyond the ordinary. Welcome aboard Avalon. Smaller ships, bigger experiences, fewer people, more of everything, right at your fingertips. And you wake up in the best staterooms in the business, to a new port every day, right in the heart of great cities, with nothing but possibilities ahead. Driven by out-of-the-box thinking and a relentless pursuit of better, Avalon heard the siren song to elevate cruising, and they have. So if you believe that life is worth living, not looking, memories are worth making, that better stories need better settings, and that we could all use a little different, you're ready for an Avalon cruise.
And
Cruising elevated.
we had such a tremendous experience with Avalon this year. We went to the Douro with them and on the Moselle and Rhine. They were two different cruises. Some of those were highlighted in some of those pictures. So that's why I'm also excited to share with you this new destination that Avalon has just opened in, I think this is the first year, 2025 is the first year that you guys are sailing in Bordeaux.
Yes.
This is going to be a wonderful cruise. It's going to feature chateaux, wineries, charming villages. So let's take a look at why you would want to visit Bordeaux. So here's a map of the different regions of the Bordeaux wine growing regions, and a lot of detail there, but I'm going to go into a little more detail because we're going to visit each of those regions during the cruise. So the first question a lot of people ask is, how did Bordeaux become the most renowned wine region in the world? And it goes back in history. So first, political connections played a part. We're talking about politics. The marriage of Eleanor of Aquitaine to Henry brought the king, he was the king of England. It brought Bordeaux under English rule. And it was a source of significant wine export to England because England is a little bit too cool of a climate to grow grapes. They're not known for their wine in England. So they imported a lot of wine from France, and it was because of that connection with Eleanor of Aquitaine. But also, look at the Dutch. You know, there's one thing the Dutch are really good at. It's drying out marshlands and making them livable and plantable. So they traded a lot with people in the Bordeaux region, and they helped to dry out some of the swampy, marshy lands and create areas where vineyards could flourish. So, and of course, they were trading all the time too. So they were exporting the wine and bringing in other goods from other parts of the world. And then that 1885 classification thing, it happened under Napoleon III, and he categorized some of the top productions of Bordeaux and gave these wonderful designations to the top producers in the area. And since then, Bordeaux became known as the wines of the rich and famous, the wines of the elite. So it constantly became more and more in demand because everybody wanted to be rich and famous and elite and drink those lovely Bordeaux wines. So here's a look at a map with a little bit more, we're kind of drilling down. And the Bordeaux lies it's the confluence of two rivers, the I can never say these French words, Dordogne and the Garonne. I can say the Garonne rivers. And then they flow into one big river, and it's called the Gironde. And then the areas of Bordeaux are divided up into the left bank, the Entrée du Mers, and the right bank. And I'm going to go through a little bit of that in a little bit, but I wanted to show you the 5 grapes. Now, if you think about these grapes are so popular. If you think about it, these are the grapes they're growing in California. They're growing these grapes in New Zealand, Australia. The big grapes that are there are going to be the Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, Merlot, and Petit Verdot. Now, Carmenere is permitted, but we usually tend to think of that as being more associated with South American wines like Chilean or Argentinian wines. They do grow it a little bit in Bordeaux, but it's not one of the primary grapes. And then the white grapes, so Semillon, Sauvignon Blanc, Muscadel are all permitted. And that's the thing, is that French wine production in Bordeaux is very heavily regulated. You have to grow certain grapes if you want to call it this, and they have lots of different regulations, but they have allowed for some additional white grapes to be grown more recently, the Albarino, the Petit Massang, and the Lilly-Orilla white grapes, just getting a little bit more diversity into the area. So let's look at these areas because we are going to visit all of these on this cruise. So the first area is the right bank area. And this is a place that's near and dear to my heart because Pomerol and Saint Emilion are 2 of my favorite wines. Whenever we're on a particular cruise line, they carry a wonderful Saint Emilion wine. If it's a special occasion, we're celebrating the whole family together, maybe at a specialty restaurant, we always order this wine from Saint Emilion. And Pomerol, you may remember, if you've ever seen the movie Sideways, that the character Miles, he's always trashing Merlot. He doesn't like Merlot. He's been in all these California, no, Merlot. And at the end of the movie, he drinks his prized bottle of Pomerol. Well, Pomerol is primarily Merlot grapes, it's just kind of, I mean, surely he knew that, but it's just kind of a little idiosyncrasy about Miles is that he hates Merlot, but he loves Pomerol. Wonderful small producers of wine in that area. And then there's the Entrées des Mers. My French is so bad. I wish I could really speak French. It means between the 2 seas, but it's not really 2 seas. It's two rivers. They produce both red and white in this area, and we will visit this area and get to try some of the different varietals that are grown there. They also make a sweet wine called Cadillac. And Cadillac is not that far from Sauternes, but it is a different style of sweet wine. It is a late harvest. And then I'll tell you how Sauternes is made when we get to the next slide. Then we've got the left bank. The left bank is probably the area that is most renowned and most well-known, the Medoc, the Haut Medoc, and the Margaux. Some of the best wines in the world are produced from that area in the left bank. It's situated on that part of the Garonne River and also all the way to the the bigger river and the estuary that comes out of there. Cabernet Sauvignon is going to be your predominant grape. Sometimes they blend in a little Merlot, Petit Franc, some of those other 5 grapes. They always grow a variety because you never know quite what you're going to get. So, but if you can blend different grapes together, you can affect the characteristics of the wine in a positive way. And then that south, I call it the south left bank. This is the home of Graubles and Sauternes. Now, Graubles and Sauternes are 2 very different styles of white wine. The Graubles is very high quality. It's again Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon, but it is fermented dry. And Graubles actually means gravel, and the soil is very gravelly. And one of the reasons they're able to grow the white wines in this area so well is that the sun during the day heats up the rocks. And then at night when it gets cool, those rocks radiate the heat back up to the grapevines and keep the grapes warm enough that they're ripening in just the right way. Now, Sauternes is made a completely different way, but from the same grapes. They leave the grapes on the vine until they get what is known as noble rot, which is a fungus. It's called Botrytis cinerea. And that causes the skins of the grape to raisin and shrivel, and it condenses the grape, all the juice into the wine, makes it very thick and sugary. So it's a wonderful dessert white wine. So now we're going to talk about the itinerary. We're going to visit all these wonderful places. So it's 7 nights. It's called Bonjour Bordeaux, Chateaux, Wineries, and Charming Villages. And you can see this is the map of where we're going to go. We're going to go to all of these places on different days and have some overnight stays in some of the places. It's kind of a spoke and wheel type itinerary because you actually go through the city of Bordeaux a couple of times. It's a beautiful city, and that's one of the things that makes this itinerary so charming. So Bordeaux is the capital of the Nouvelle Aquitaine region, and of course, we all know it's renowned for its vineyard. The ship will probably overnight dock here, but depending on the tides, because this is a tidal river and the bridges we need to clear, we may leave it sometime during the night and head out towards our next stop in the morning in order to get on the other side of a bridge or something like that. So on the first day, the classic excursion is going to take you to this castle. It's a fortress-style castle, and it was the birthplace of a famous philosopher and author. And so that's kind of a classic thing you can do, go see this beautiful castle. Or the discovery excursion, again, this is included, a guided visit to a local wine chateau. You'll get to try the Sauternes wine. And even if you don't like sweet wine, it's such a great experience to try this because it's not, it's one of those wines that's sweet, but it's so complex that you don't just taste sugar. So there's again a picture of that noble rot on the grapes. And then the next day, so we head to the Cusack Fort in the Medoc area. And our active excursion through the Medoc area is to do an e-bike ride through the wineries and the vineyards and everything. And then there is a discovery excursion also offered that is going to visit a historic chateau in Medoc and enjoy some wine tasting and maybe have some Cabernet and Merlot, and we can talk about what we like about it, what we don't like about it. And then in the evening, we're going to sail to Blaye overnight. And we'll dock over there overnight. And in the morning, we'll get to visit the Citadel of Blaye. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Or if you want to have some more wine tasting, you can go to an art gallery and do a little wine tasting. And it's going to be actually not wine from Bordeaux. It's champagne and cognac made, and it's going to be a Remy Martin tasting. So there's also going to be that night some live entertainment on board the ship. Avalon does such a great job of bringing live entertainers, local entertainers that really bring just the fun of what the local atmosphere is like. Musicians, singers, dancers, it's a lot of fun. So the next day, overnight, we are going to sail to Berg. And the next day, we have our excursion to, yay, my favorite place, Saint Emilion. And the whole city is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. There are beautiful landscapes there. And there's a monolithic church that was carved as a pilgrimage church. This area was on a route that people used to take to the Holy Land, and they wanted people to stop here. So they built a tourist attraction, a monolithic church. So that's also located in Saint Emilion, and then plus many beautiful wineries and tasting rooms. There's people, local vintners will be in the tasting room pouring their stuff that they just made, and they want you to try and, buy a bottle to take home. And then we do head back to the city of Bordeaux that night. And the next day, we have our full classic excursion. There's so many beautiful things to see in Bordeaux: squares, cathedral, avenues, tasting rooms, if you just want to taste some wine instead of seeing all the buildings there. And there's also
Bordeaux
an
is a fairly
optional.
large city, so it's not
Yeah,
it's not a town.
I think it's 200,000 people live there. But you know what? It's a big city, but it doesn't feel like Paris. I mean, I felt like it was just a warm, welcoming place. And actually, I didn't feel Paris was not. So it didn't feel like stereotypical Paris, I should put it that way. Very lovely place. They do have an optional excursion that takes you out to an old submarine base where there is like an art visual slideshow. So if that's something that's interesting to you, there would be an extra charge. The cruise ship will dock overnight in Bordeaux. So if you want to get out and explore the town in the evening, you can do that as well. The next day, you have a classic excursion to Arcachon, and it's over on the Atlantic coast. It takes about an hour to get there from Bordeaux. There's all these beautiful 19th century resort buildings there. Like, people came here, this was their resort area, and they built their second home. Beautiful homes there. There's beaches, and they also have a sustainable oyster industry. And I'm going to tell you this first, I do not eat oysters. So we went and did an oyster tasting, and I had my glass of wine and a cracker because I don't like oysters. But it was so interesting to see how they figured out how to make oyster harvesting sustainable. And they show you a little video on that. And then you get to go to one of these local licensed oyster houses and try some oysters or not with some wine. And it's even if you don't like oysters, I definitely recommend this excursion. It is a beautiful place to go see. So now that we know where we're going, all those wonderful places in and around Bordeaux, let's talk about our ship. And Debbie talked about this a little bit earlier. So we talked about it. The leading competitor puts about 30% more people into the same size ship, and some of their rooms are quite tiny. But let's take a better look at what the rooms look like on Avalon.
The sweet ships of Avalon, designed from the ground up with an attention to detail river cruising has never seen before. There's nothing quite like river cruising no matter who you cruise with, but there are some pretty big differences between companies, starting with how they look at staterooms. And our one-of-a-kind panorama suite is proof of our innovation, our imagination, and our desire to create a smarter use of space. To give you some perspective of how much better our staterooms are, we're comparing them to the average river cruise cabin. Here's the average window, roughly 7 feet wide, with an opening under 4 feet. Here's our window, nearly 11 feet wide, floor to ceiling, wall to wall. And when it opens, it really opens, wide enough to let the outside in, because the opening is a full 7 feet, almost twice the size of the others. It's the largest standard window in river cruising. Now, let's take a look at the bed of the average cabin. It faces the wall, not much to look at there. We had a much better idea. What if we angled the wall and turned the bed? That little change gives you the perfect perspective of the amazing views out your window. We then turned our attention to the balcony. Here's the average river cruise balcony. Seems like a nice idea, but as far as we can tell, there's not a lot of room for people to enjoy the views out there. And they had to take space from your stateroom to create that small deck space outside. So here's our better idea. Reclaim that space, push the window out, add a spacious dining and seating area for up to 6 adults, combine it with the largest sliding glass door in the business, and voila, you have an open-air balcony, the only one of its kind in river cruising, and you can enjoy it day and night, no matter the weather. Plus, you'll enjoy a lot more livable space, a full 200 square feet. We gave our room an attention to detail unmatched in the industry. We offer comfort collection beds, plenty of easily accessible storage, and we even added sound dampening insulation in our walls to make it less likely you'll hear your neighbors or they'll hear you. And we didn't stop with the room. We turned that same attention to detail to the bathroom. We took a look at the bathroom of the average ship and we knew we could do better. By angling the wall, we opened up more space in the bathroom. Then we took our newfound space and we made it luxurious. We have a large tile shower with glass doors, marble countertops, premium fixtures, L'Occitane bath amenities, and shelves to store all your necessities. And the best part is that there aren't just a couple of these staterooms on our ships, reserved for those who want to pay more. 80% of the staterooms on our suite ships are panorama suites. And once you leave your suite, you're likely to find fewer people on our suite ships. Because with our bigger staterooms, there is less capacity for passengers, which means more space everywhere you go. As you can see, more has gone into the amazing panorama suites, so you can get so much more out of them. We invite you to compare, and you'll see there's no comparison.
Suites are just absolutely amazing. She said there's no comparison, but let's compare. So here's your typical
And you
suite.
will open that door wall and have it open. We did it on our Christmas cruises. We had it open.
Oh yeah, yeah. We had, it's beautiful. I mean, you love having it, and the room stays pretty warm too. So look at that full-size shower. Steve's a big guy. He loves the shower. There's plenty of closet space. This is my workspace when I'm working. And I love it because there's a mirror all along this wall here. And so when I'm sitting at the desk, I can still see out the window. I can see what's behind us or in front of us, depending on which direction my room is facing. That lovely seating area. They're really nice rooms. And this is what they look like on the leading competitor. Again, very small balcony and tiny, tiny bathrooms, very tiny. So just the rooms alone to me sell me on Avalon Waterways. There's a picture of our very first cruise we did with Avalon. Loved that open air balcony suite. And if you are traveling with someone who is not your significant other, like you're traveling with your mom or your sister, those beds do split apart. So each person can have a twin bed. That's something that I don't think I have any pictures of it, but they do offer it as twin beds. Again, there's that full-size bathroom, plenty of room, lots of counter space. That's the other thing. So many times they put this big sink in and no counter space. There's plenty of big sink and counter space. If you are on a little bit more of a budget, the lower level of the ship does have these fixed window cabins. I have had clients who are either traveling solo and they like to, have the better price for the fixed window, or just want to spend their money elsewhere, maybe on upgraded flights. They'll book these cabins, and they've been very happy with them as well. They're still 172 square feet, which is bigger than the French balcony on the leading competitor. And Debbie was talking about that lounge on the back. This is the thing I love about Avalon is this lounge that is on the back of the ship is open to everyone. It's on the third floor. Some of the competitors have their huge suites in this area, so only the people in those suites get to enjoy the views from the back of the ship. And this is one of the best places to sit and watch where you've been as you're cruising along the river. Or maybe grab a bottle of wine that you bought in town and sit with your best friends back here and enjoy it. Just a quiet bottle of wine and some laughs with your friends. This is the Panorama Lounge, which is up towards the front of the ship. This is where they have the daily happy hour, the entertainment, the briefings. And this is also a great place if the weather's a little inclement. You can see there's panoramic picture windows everywhere where you can sit and watch the river go by. There is a gym on the ship, and you see there's Steve being really good and working out. They have a wonderful main dining room, and of course, this is our last night we're applauding all our wonderful chefs, and then afternoon tea with the wonderful snacks that they have. So Debbie also talked about this, the classic, the discovery, and the active, and I've had examples of what each one of those types of tours look like. So really quickly, when we were in Budapest, we did a classic tour that included all the historic highlights and the scenic views. Then we also did a discovery wine tasting tour where we went out into the countryside, visited 2 wineries, and the winemakers came and talked to us and poured the wine and gave us really, really informative information about the local wine industry. And here's an example of an active excursion. This was in Dürnstein. We hiked way up this hill to the hill that was the ruined castle that Richard the Lionheart was imprisoned in. And you can see it was quite a hike up there, but definitely worth it for the views. You have flexible dining choices too with Avalon. So the main dining room, you're going to be really, they say you can sit anytime between 7 and 8:30, but really everyone goes down there at 7 o'clock and everybody's seated together and everybody's served at the same time. But they also have, if the weather's nice, they'll have lunch on the alfresco sky grill. You can also get room service. And they also have the Panorama Bistro, which is up in that, what do you call it, in the Panorama Lounge. You can sit up there. There's a couple of tables up there, and they bring out small portions of the food that they're serving downstairs. So if you don't want to be in with the big crowd and everybody talking and enjoying themselves, because I will tell you, people get really talkative on wine cruises because, you know, wine makes you happy, and when you're happy, you talk a lot. So the Panorama Bistro is a nice chance if you want to have a quieter meal with your friends or your significant other. The Avalon Fresh program is their philosophy: local foods, fresh foods, locally sourced. It really sets Avalon high above the leading competitor. These are examples of regional specialties. This was when we were in Hungary. So we had, and Austria. So we had Wiener Schnitzel in Austria and Hungarian cabbage rolls and schnitzel in Austria. Wonderful things. When we arrived in Bavaria on that particular cruise, they had Bavarian lunch. So I think they did it too when we were on our Moselle cruise. They had a lot of local specialties when we did our Moselle cruise just a couple weeks ago, and definitely Portuguese food when we were in the Douro. So and then that complimentary happy hour, 1 hour before dinner, house wine, beer, a couple of different drinks of the day. And it's usually 1 hour before the opening of the dining room. And that's when you're enjoying your briefing from your cruise director, who's going to tell you how the things are going to go for the next day. So to wrap it all up, you know, the last slide I showed of the actual itinerary itself had the beautiful picture of us in Arcachon and the oyster tasting. And then the cruise does return back to Bordeaux. So this is your start and ending place. It's certainly a place worth spending a couple extra days. And if you need help planning that out, I am an expert on the region. I can help you find a hotel, some tours, some tasting experiences, and maybe not just wine, maybe food, local cheese, all those kind of things we can book ahead of time for you and make it a really, really immersive experience. It doesn't just have to be a 7-night cruise. It could be a cruise and something else. And as a matter of fact, we are getting off this ship and we are going to fly to Budapest and do another river cruise out of there about 4 days later. So those two things can
spend an extra night
combine.
in Bordeaux and then 2 nights in Budapest.
Yeah. Those two things can combine very
Maybe
nicely.
we'll go to Gordon Ramsay's restaurant there in Bordeaux.
That's what I want to do. You've got to make reservations, I think, months in advance. I'm not sure. Let's see if you can get us a table. So we have great group rates. As a matter of fact, we have locked in their special promotion that they're running right now. You get a free upgrade to a balcony suite. So it doesn't really show because it doesn't show the discounts. The lower level cabins, and this is total for 2, but the lower level cabins have they have a base price of like $39.99 plus taxes. And so what they've done on those, if you want to book one of those, you get $12.50 off of that. And that's reflected in these prices. Then for the cabins that are the panorama suites, those are the B, the A's, the P's, they're giving you a free upgrade. So you can book that P panorama suite on the 3rd deck, which is the most coveted place for those panorama suites because you can see a little better from the top of the ship, right, than you would on deck 2. They're the same price as the A's and B's, and this is a tremendous savings. It's a really, really good promotion that they're running right now. And on top of that, we have free prepaid gratuities for our group. And of course, your wonderful travel hosts, Suzanne and Steve, will be there. We'll have some sort of private onboard group events. We'll figure that out as we get a little bit closer. Maybe Steve and I will buy some wine and we'll do a wine tasting party as we're sailing one day. We've done that before on our river cruises as well. And there's also some limited allocation single occupancy pricing that's really good. So if you're traveling solo, give me a call. I'll give you a quote for that as well. And we also have, if you book by November 17th, we have got a $50 per person savings off these already low rates. And remember, this is the total for two, not the per person total. I just want to kind of give you an overview of every place that Avalon Waterways goes. They travel all the rivers of Europe. You do have the option of booking your air through Avalon's program. It's booked about 11 months before the cruise. There's an additional $300 deposit, and you pay for your air in full with your final payment. And your final payment with Avalon is not due until 90 days before your departure. Some other cruise lines make you pay a full year in advance. Avalon, 90 days before your departure. So really quickly, I just want to run through some other group cruises that we are also promoting. We have a lot of these Holland America See the World from Your Doorstep. These are long cruises that travel all over the world and leave and come back to US ports. Very great way to travel if you are not big on flying. We also have an escorted group that we're going to Iceland in the summer of next year. It is a 7-night circumnavigation of Iceland, and we have some great promotions going on right now. Escorted river cruises. So I mentioned that after this one, we're getting off boat, we're flying to Budapest, and we have a wine lovers cruise where the winemaker is going to have his wine on board. This other cruise line has a program and they buy the wine and he's going to do some teaching. But then we're back to Avalon with the romantic Rhine with Lucerne and Lake Como in April of 2026. If you are interested
tomorrow night on that one.
Yeah, we're having a webinar tomorrow night on that
that's
one. Now,
December. No.
That's December. No, we're doing Ascension Cellars tomorrow night. So we'll get to that in a second. But if you're interested in going to Antarctica, we have 2 different ways to visit Antarctica, one on a traditional scenic sailing ship and the other on an expedition ship with Zodiac landings on the continent. We had a webinar back on September 11th. So if you're interested in that, pop me off an email or you can go to our YouTube page and find it. You can learn more about that cruise. This is the one we're having tomorrow. It's with Ascension Cellars, a wonderful Paso Robles winery that makes Bordeaux style wines. So they make them in California, but they are Bordeaux style. And we're having a wonderful ocean cruise with them with wine tasting on board. And then we have Scandinavian capitals in May of 2026. This one is actually set up so you could do the Avalon Amsterdam to Lucerne and then fly to Rotterdam or Amsterdam, whichever is easier. Do this cruise to these wonderful Baltic capitals. And then if you want to even extend that's what we're doing now. Maybe you should think about doing this. We had a client that's booked on that cruise and she wanted to do this. And so we took out a group on this for her. Gives her a locked-in price. She gets some benefits, and she's going to be doing this with some other people from our group. Maybe we'll think about doing this one too. It looks pretty incredible. This train ride from Bergen to Oslo. So this is with Globus. This is Avalon's sister brand. There is their land tour company. So incredible experience if you want to see the heart of Norway and not just the coastal areas, because you're going to go right through several areas that are just spectacular scenery. We also have some Holland America cruises that are going to be during the solar eclipse in the North Atlantic, and those are in 2026. And we also have, they're not on here. We also have a celebrity cruise that is Spain and Portugal during the solar eclipse in 2026. So if you're interested in seeing a solar eclipse from your cruise ship, give me a call. And finally, in the fall of 2026, we've got back-to-back cruises. We are doing both of these, Windstar and Azamara. So we do a lot of different things because we know that everybody wants to have something a little bit different. We always try to curate incredible experiences. And we know that with Avalon, our 2 cruises with them this year were absolutely phenomenal. And both to wine regions, they do wine regions really, really well. And want to remind you that we have this special promotion. If you book by November 17th, you'll receive an additional $50 per person discount for any new Avalon Waterways or Globus booking. If you wanted to book that Globus Norway trip, we'd give you the $50 per person off of that as well. So again, thank you so much for coming. I want to open it up. Do we have any questions? I'll leave the slideshow up in case I need to scroll back to show something on a slide again. Okay, well, we covered everything. So if you want to go ahead and stop the recording, Steve.